Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome all of you, those who are here, and also those who are watching through live streaming. And I think we've been live streaming back to my old world, are we not? Back to the UK. Welcome to people viewing from the UK. For those down in England, you might be well surprised to hear this Scottish accent. They're everywhere, these blooming Scots, you'll be thinking. Welcome. Here we come in memory and in celebrating the life of Donald James Clayton. Don, of course, as he was known to all of you. We come in support of each other at times like this. This is a time for us coming together. Despite the COVID virus, it's still a time for us coming together. And despite the COVID virus, it's still a time where we greet each other with open arms. Because we're human, we can't help ourselves. We do want to do the very best by maintaining our social distance, but in time of grief, we are never more human. We open our arms and people come into our enfolded grasp, and we are consoled and comforted right in there where it hurts. It works for us as humans. Or we shake hands, I know we should be doing the elbow, but we still shake hands. And in that shake of a hand, there is transmitted loving comfort, peace, reassurance, all those things that we need at a time like this. And so we're consoled in that place where it hurts. For family overseas, we extend to you a warm embrace. We extend to you such a good hearty handshake also, that you may be comforted. Here we come for each other at this time. For Don's family, remembering Don's wives, Violet, Patricia, and also Anita. Here we are, though at great distance, here we are for you, David, to assure you that you're not alone today, that we also share in something of your loss. Even across the planet, we share together. Here we are for his siblings. It's interesting what you remember at times like this. Peter, I'm sure you'll have had some thoughts these past days that have maybe even surprised you as you recall things from decades ago, things that were in the dim and distant that have been brought to the fore, and you think, God, I haven't thought on that for decades. At times like that, I hope you're with someone so you can share the memory and say, do you know what I just remembered? I remembered when we were boys, and you've got something to share. It's at a time like this that memories do come back. Here we are remembering Don, Peter, and Brenda. Here we are, and you may well recall back to childhood days, to parents. It's a time for recall. As we come to celebrate Don's life. It's what we do nowadays rather than call it a funeral service. It's a celebration of someone's life. But even so, we still come with tears in our eyes. We still come with tears in our eyes, and yet laughing as we recall something, because we can do both laugh and cry at the same time. Down through the years, we've written about this experience, and others have written about it. We read their writings and we're comforted in thinking that we're not alone. That's precisely how I feel. And sometimes those cards of condolence are just so apt and perfect, as if they were written for Dawn and for you. I've selected this reading for today. It's called Crossing the Bar. It's by Alfred Lloyd Tennyson, the great English poet. This is about someone who was a seafarer crossing the bar. He's going off in life. Crossing the bar refers to seafarers travelling serenely and securely from life to death. And through the meeting of, and you'll hear this in the poem, a meeting of one's pilot, that is one's maker. For one who was familiar at sea then, a seafarer, sunset and evening star, and one clear call for me, and may there be no moaning of the bar when I put out to sea. But such a tide as moving seems asleep, too full for sound and foam, when that which drew from out of the bottomless deep turns again home. Twilight and evening bell, and after dark, and may there be no sadness of farewell when I embark. For though from out our bourne of time and place the flood may bear me afar, I hope to see my pilot's face when I have crossed the bar. A famous piece by Alfred Lloyd Tennyson, often read on occasions like this for a seafarer. I hope my pilot's face to see when I have crossed the bar. Donald James Clayton, Don, born 19th of December 1937, born in Cowley, down in Oxford, England. For those who are unfamiliar with where that is, England's a small place just south of Scotland. Can't help myself. Don was born to parents, Fred and Edith, the eldest of the 3 children they had, along with brother Peter and sister Brenda. Don's childhood, I'm told, was a happy one. You can imagine what it would have been like then back in the late 30s, early 40s. A carefree time when children could roam and explore. A happy childhood. He was schooled at East Oxford Junior School before going on to Southfield Grammar School. After leaving school, Don took up an apprenticeship as a glass cutter. But then, it was quite literally a sea change when at the age of 21, he was conscripted into the British Royal Navy. He must have enjoyed it, because after serving his time in conscription, he re-signed, signing up for a further 7 years. There was an age-old saying, I wonder if it was said here in Australia, but it used to be said in the UK. It was their kind of slogan for recruitment: join the Navy and see the world. Join the Navy and see the world. Well, this was true for Don, who spent many years serving overseas and seeing the world. He had a terrible accident, though, while serving in South Africa. He fell off a dock, broke his hips, legs and arms, resulted in him having to endure numerous operations followed by months of rehabilitation, both in South Africa and then back home in England. It could have been all too different, but thankfully he survived to tell the tale and to live on. Don married Violet, a lass that he had met in Oxford, and they married in South Africa while Don was serving in the British Navy. Violet had 2 children from a previous relationship, Richard and Susan, and later her and Don had a son, David. Don always said the highlight of his naval career was serving on HMS Belfast, a rather famous ship. He sailed on her last voyage up the Thames to London, where she would be anchored as a memorial and a museum still to this day. After serving his time in the Royal Navy, Doy claimed he was decommissioned like an old warship. It's an interesting way of putting it. He was decommissioned like an old warship. Don and Violet and the children returned to Cowley in Oxfordshire and lived a few years at Blackbird Leys. Another sea change. Glass cutting in the Navy to become a publican and hotel manager until the late 1960s. Don and Violet moved to their own pub called the Bullingdon Arms. Don and Violet parted ways and each moved on. Don then met and married Patricia. They had a happy marriage with lots of travelling to the United States, down here to Australia, and over into Europe. Don had another sea change of occupations as he then drove coaches and tourists all over Europe. Sadly, Pat was diagnosed with cancer. They took an extended holiday to visit family here in Australia back in 1990, during which time they attended Jenny and Brad's wedding, and then they must have been good friends. Accompanied them on their honeymoon. They must have been good friends. Unfortunately, Pat passed away shortly after their return to England. In all of this, we're journeying with him as he journeyed through life. Don was so downhearted. What do you do? What do you say to someone so downhearted in his state? Well, the family suggested perhaps going back to Australia on holiday, something to pick up your spirits. With Brother Peter. Well, while visiting the great southern land, Don decided he'd like to stay, like many another who's come from the UK to Australia. He then joked that he hoped he'd meet a rich Australian widow. After much heartache and much paperwork and much fighting with the Australian Immigration Department, Don was eventually granted residency and became an Australian citizen, and he's lived here for the last 23 years. I'm glad to say that he loved his life in Australia and also here on the Central Coast. It's a great thing to be able to say from here. Don had a friendly, sociable personality. He liked meeting and mixing with people. He had various interests and hobbies which, as you know, and he shared with you. Meeting and mixing with people, he enjoyed a social drink. He also enjoyed boating. You'd think he'd have been fed up with boating. He had seen enough water to last him a lifetime, but he enjoyed boating. And still on the water, he enjoyed fishing. And then while on land, more sedate, golfing. He liked dining. This is a funny one. He enjoyed dining. And with all his sense of humour, when one occasion invited by two lovely ladies to a black tie dinner, he arrived wearing a black tie with matching socks and underpants. You can imagine the sight. So he had a good sense of humour. How he must have loved telling his navy mates about that occasion and spilling the yarn. Here in Australia, Don met Anita. They became good friends and eventually partnered. They spent a great time travelling together, travelling interstate, enjoying holidays to the likes of New Zealand, and wonderful times with Anita's family. In late 2020, Don became quite ill, entered the Berkeley Village Community Care Centre, where in his own mind he was driving buses every day. So I dare say he was quite happy because he enjoyed that. He became progressively ill with his failing health. He passed peacefully. With Peter and Nancy by his side on Wednesday 28th of July, he could hardly have passed more peacefully. In nautical terms, he crossed the bar. Don, go in peace. Is there a letter from David? Are you reading that or am I? You are. Thank you. We now have a letter from David, and this is always a privilege as we hear from a member of family sharing in their time of grief. Thanks for that. Here you come.
Memories of my dad. Memories of my dad were vivid, either remembering a busy and colourful life as a child, or hectic life with my parents and the happy times where he found his solace down under. I was one when Don became a publican, whether it was him dressing up for charity, dyeing the colour of his hair, or streaking down a major hotel ballroom stark naked. He lived his life. The stories of my dad were communicated by my mother, and their enjoyment of a tipple or two. It did mean that the stories were generally exaggerated, but nevertheless very colourful. After my mum and dad split up, I had little time with my father, generally the odd Sunday with him travelling around the country on a coach. Sundays out was sitting on a 53-seat coach on the gearbox cover, reading maps and giving directions. Little did I know, he knew where he was going, he just got me involved. He found love again with his second wife, Pat, and for a number of years, the spark in his eye came back. Then tragedy hit, and she fell ill and passed away. He was lost again and was treading water for a number of years, until his sibling Pete talked about emigrating, and the rest is history. He was a fad man, and taking a sport or interest and throwing himself into it fully, until the next interest came about, binge drinking and not knowing when to stop, similar traits I have been given. My mum always said that he changed in his 30s after he nearly died with meningitis. From that time, he lived for the next day and not for planning for the future. We had moments in our life we didn't see eye to eye, but he has always been my dad, and he lives in me and hopefully in his grandson William, Chris, and we shall see if Teddy shows any of Don. Only time will tell. Sleep well, Dad. Say hello to Grampy Fred and Nanny Edith and your sister Brenda.
David, thank you so much for sharing with us today. What's this thing with him streaking down a ballroom, turning up for a date with underpants, socks and a tie? What is this? He obviously had a good sense of humour. We take a moment now to reflect. And I know that in many of the reflections and stirring up memories, there's often a tear shed. But I hope more than anything else there's a warmth in your heart as you recall these things. Something of Don's life in picture then, to the instrumental, My Way. The memories. Thank you for going into your photo albums and selecting those to share with us today. That was a privilege. Thank you so much for that. The family has included the Lord's Prayer in the service. If you'd like to join in, you're welcome. If for you it's a quiet moment, then have a quiet moment. David, for you and for others watching through live streaming, if you'd like to join in, then join in with us. The Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. We try to find readings, music, and all sorts that tie in with the service that would relate to Dawn. I actually just read something yesterday regarding the British Navy. I wonder what Dawn would have made of this, that those serving in the British Navy are now allowed long hair and ponytails. It would make the Navy look quite different. Wonder what he would make of that. Here's a piece entitled A Ship Sails, which I thought was rather appropriate for Dawn. A ship sails. A ship sails, and I stand watching till she fades on the horizon. And just then someone at my side says, "She's gone. He's gone." Gone where, though? Gone from my sight, that's all. The ship and him aboard is still just as large as when I last saw them. Their diminishing and diminishing size and total loss from my sight is in me, not in them. And just at that moment when someone at my side is saying, "It's gone, he's gone," there are others who are watching this ship come over their horizon, and other voices are taking up a glad shout. "There it is," they shout. "There it is. There he comes." It's been suggested this is what dying is. Just the limit of our sight beyond the bar. There he is. We come together like this, or in the modern means of streaming, we come together. And in being together, there is comfort and consolation for sure. But as we come together, we share some memories, tell some stories, recall, recollect, smile and laugh together, as well as shed a tear. But the other reason for coming together is that we might fare well. We've come to that part in the service as we fare well. For this we always stand in honour and in tribute, so if you're able, would you please be upstanding? And those of you watching through live streaming, be at one with us, and if you too would be upstanding. Here, together, we have remembered and celebrated the life of Dawn, that our life is all the better for ever having had him in it. There are those who share his gift of life. And now he has crossed the bar. We farewell him with words of "Go in peace. Go in peace. Earth to earth, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Go in peace." I leave with you these words of a Celtic blessing, words of "Go in peace," that you may leave here in peace. Deep peace of the shining star to you. Deep peace of the quiet earth to you. Deep peace of the running wave to you. Deep peace of the flowing air to you. Deep peace of warm, assuring, comforting love to you. Comforting love to you that you may leave here, even here, in peace. Go in peace. What else would we leave to other than sailing? Rod Stewart. Go in peace.
I am sailing home again, across the sea. I am sailing stormy waters to be near you, to be free. passing